Hi, welcome back to Harmonize Your Life, Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. Well, I have a wonderful guest here with me this afternoon that I know you will be blessed by in our conversation today. I have with me Dr. Felicia M. Owens. Dr. Felicia Owens, I want to just give you a little bit about her. She received her doctorate in clinical psychology at the Illinois School of Professional Psychology. She is a licensed mental health professional with over 15 years of clinical experience with providing psychotherapy to adults, parents, and families in various settings, including private practice, community churches, DCFS, psychiatric hospitals, college settings, counseling centers. Dr. Owens has a specialty in the area of marriage and family, specifically with minority families, for the intentional purpose of strengthening service delivery to their communities while addressing the multicultural factors that exist for these families. Dr. Owens is the founder of Dr. Owens Speak, a faith-based wellness firm devoted to helping others incorporate their faith and mental health. She also serves as the president and co-founder of Higher Ground Wellness Group, a mental health wellness firm that specializes in providing psychological services to BIPOC, B-I-P-O-C. Dr. Owens is an educator, motivational speaker, and ordained minister who is well known for her efforts being directed toward helping others and intentionally enhancing the quality of their life while maximizing their strength and possibilities to ignite the awakening and clarity of their purpose and identity. Welcome to the Harmonize Your Life podcast, Dr. Felicia Owens.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I'm honored to be here, honestly. I'm really honored to be here.
Well, I am glad to have you here as our guest on this afternoon. As you know, this podcast is a lifestyle podcast, yes. And we are primarily concerned with self-care issues of health and wellness for communities of color. Particularly, our podcast is targeted toward women of color, yes. And we like to discuss issues, bring information, inspiration, whatever we can to help our people be healthy, spirit, soul, and body. And so I am so glad to have you here this afternoon as our guest on the Harmonize Your Life podcast so that you can share with us some of the things that you are experiencing in our topic on today. We're going to be talking today about issues concerning self-care, as it relates to distance learning. We know that many of our students in school systems are back in session, but many of our schools and families, students and children, parents are having to learn how to do this distance learning, digital learning, and remain healthy in the process. Yes. And so I wanted to bring you on today to have that conversation based on your work and the things that you are involved in this area. And hopefully we can help our families as we traverse this new normal Absolutely. That we are in concerning digital learning and how we managing this whole piece.
Absolutely. And Dr. Toni, it is definitely a new normal, right? I think that's the part I think all of us as parents, teachers, children, students, I think we all have to embrace that this is not like anything we've probably tackled before, right? Going into this school year, although some college students are moving back on campus, right? School is actually starting, which is normal. But the part that is new to us is how it's starting, right? So we've had to, we need to kind of come back to the table, come back to the drawing board to say, okay, this is kind of what our life is going to be like for however long, or we don't know. So we have to think about all of these factors that play a role that are outside of our control and that are within our control. That's going to help us to really, really take care of ourselves.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't have school age children anymore, but I do have young adults they're even having it's a new normal for them as well, our daughter is a senior now at Spelman, and in the second semester of her junior year, all of a sudden this spring, the schools closed, the campuses closed, and she and all her Spelman sisters had to vacate the campus and go home. And it was tough for a minute. I mean, she went through, she went through those stages of being, first shock about it, and then the anger about it, and the sadness of some of their rituals and things that they were used to. Many of the Spelman sisters did not experience a graduation this year. And even in going back this fall, there are so many things, rituals that they are used to being a part of, and bringing in an incoming class, and the seniors, and some of the things that they do as seniors, they're not able to do this semester because of the coronavirus and not being able to go back on their campus. And so this is impacting not just our school age children, but even our college students. This is really impacting.
Yeah. And you said something really, I think what we all have to do is the acknowledgement of that loss, because that's what it is. And it's a loss that was kind of created for us, right? COVID-19 hit. We had no idea we would be here. I always say, I cannot believe that this is the world that we're living in right now. But I think, I like to tell people losses are meant to be mourned. And oftentimes when we think of a loss, we think of a major death in a family, right? Yeah. A tragic car accident or something like that. But what we are experiencing now, like you said, some of the college students, they don't have the rituals that they would have, or the normal way we would do things. These are everyday losses that need to be mourned. And sometimes people don't generally realize that. And when they wonder, okay, why am I feeling frustrated, or why am I feeling irritated? Because we're not mourning these losses. So I really want to be there about losses. They're not just big, tragic losses. And if you think about it, this is tragic, right? As a senior, come on, like not having a graduation, you work 4 years and you can't kind of have your family to come, right? This is pretty tragic for a lot of people. So I just think that it is important for us to really, really, one of the first things to really think about is acknowledging the loss.
Acknowledging the loss.
Absolutely.
Okay. So acknowledging that and naming that.
Absolutely. And it's okay. Like, you talked about your daughter was frustrated. She was angry. Absolutely. Because her choice was disappointment. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
It's like people would say, okay, but we still had a choice, right? But it was just like, well, think about it, right? We had a choice to make sure we live or die, right? So it was just like, oh yeah, I could have still did this, but at the beginning of this virus, we didn't have anything, right? It was stay at home, it was do all those things. We didn't have any of that. We didn't have any of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think if that's something that needs to be acknowledged, that's just the what has been taken away from us that was outside of our own autonomy.
Okay. Good. So let me ask you this question, Dr. Owens. Yes. In your work, you work you're a psycho therapist,
yes,
and a clinical psychologist, and you work with families, you work with students, you work with children. So what are some of the major issues that you are witnessing or observing as we adjust to this new normal? How are families managing? How are they taking care of themselves? What do you see as some of the challenges to that?
Yeah, there have been a lot of challenges, right? I think the major challenge has been conflict, just kind of getting along with one another, right? Because now we're, or not necessarily, well, I'll say getting along with one another in the sense of how do we better understand each other in this time, understand one another. So for instance, if you have a husband and a wife at home and they both work, right, and then the kids are at home remote learning, I've seen where the husband and wives are kind of in conflict of whose schedule is priority. The husband has to work, the wife has to work, so who needs to watch the kids? You know, is it like Icky Bicky Soda Cracker or Icky Bicky who needs to watch the children, right? So it's like your schedule is not as important as mine or not less important as mine, right? So that's been the major thing of how to kind of navigate all of these new things that have happened. That has been a major thing is trying to navigate balance, right? Who's cooking dinner tonight? Okay, I've worked all day, or I've been in Zoom conferences all day. Who's feeding our children, right? Who's going to sit and watch them and making sure that they are focused during remote learning? So that's been the big part of the conflict of how do we kind of just get along during this time and make this work.
Wow.
That's been the biggest thing that I have seen that I have been helping families to do. And I think one of the major things that I've had to share with families is like, hey, listen, we have been, like, for instance, what happened in March, crisis management, right? We didn't necessarily have a plan. It happened so fast. So it was just like, let's just do what we have to do. But now what we're seeing is that this is probably going to be more long-term. So we got to come back to the drawing board. We got to bring our schedules back to the drawing board, right? We got to come back to the table and say, hey, listen, this is probably going to be something that's long-term. So let me take a look at your schedule. Let's take a look at my schedule, and let's take a look at the kids' schedule, if there are children, right? Because, like, for instance, children, their teachers have sent home a remote learning schedule, which says every single thing that they have going on. So one of the things that I encourage parents to do is say, hey, try your best to sync your schedule with them. So let's say if you see your kid's schedule and you know at 1:15 they have reading with their teacher from 1:50, you know you might not necessarily have to sit and kind of watch them because they're going to be engaging and interacting with their teacher. So that's probably time to get some things done, right? That's probably some time to maybe get a snack done, right? So, but it's all about coming back to the table and having the conversation about it. Lots of families are just not talking to one another because they're just so frustrated, right? So they're just not communicating effectively with one another. And that's a big thing that we have to do.
Okay, so this whole idea of conflict management, relationship of, living in this space with each other, because, Dr. Owens, a lot of married couples, we married, we live in the same house, we love each other, but we're not spending all these hours together.
Yes.
And so you getting up, we got our lives, and you getting up and you going where you go and I go where I go. And then we come back together at the end of the day. But this whole thing of now we're all in this space together and we're here all day or we're here all week. And where do I go in the house? Where do you go in the house? And all of that kind of thing. So it's been said that the divorce rate and even abuse has increased.
Yes, I've seen it.
In this pandemic.
Yes.
Abuse, domestic violence, and things of that nature has increased because of relationship dynamics and maybe things that were even going on before the pandemic, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, they're being magnified now, right?
And now it's magnified, exactly. And so people are just not knowing how to even manage those relationships anymore, or didn't know how maybe prior to. And now, like you said, the pandemic is a hotbed. It is created, it's like a perfect storm in a sense.
That's right, because it added another layer too, right? So think about, you already have responsibilities as a husband, as a wife, as a child, right? There were already responsibilities. And then here comes Coco, right? Here comes COVID-19, right? She comes and adds an extra layer of responsibility to you, right? So now it's not that we wasn't washing our hands, but now it's the extra responsibility. Okay, you got to make sure you're wearing your mask. You got to make sure your house is disinfected. You have to make sure, your kids are doing well. So it's this extra layer of things now. Now it's remote learning. Now it's working from home. So while people are like, oh, I love working from home, it may have cut out some good things of the travel, but it's all of the extra things. So it's just added another layer of responsibility to it, which is why it's so important to come back to the table and almost reprioritize something, right? You have to rethink something. You got to kind of reimagine. Bishop Brackett had been in this whole thing, about reimagine, reinvent, and recalibrate. And we had no idea this is what it would be like. But this, in essence, this is what you have to come to the table to do. And you mentioned something, Dr. Toni, like, where do we go in the house? One of the things I encourage families to do is create a space in your house, right? Create a space that your kids are going to do homeschooling. Even if it's a corner, buy a small desk, get some crates and put a board on top of, whatever, emphasize, whatever you can do, create a space so that way you can have a feeling like, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to come away from it. Right. So this is my little corner office that I come to and do everything. And then when I'm done, I can push that desk up and I can be off work. Right. Because think about it, if your space is cluttery, there's a cluttering in your mind too, in your mental space.
Yeah.
It's cluttered as well. So find a space, designated space in your area that you can do and try not to do it in your bed. Try not to do it in your bed. Try not to do it. I mean, sometimes, but designated space that you're going to leave and you're going to go to every single day, because that's going to help your physical and emotional space as well.
Okay. And I know even for me, when we first got in this pandemic, I had to do that because I had to decide, okay, this is where I'm going to do work on this. And this is where I'm going to do. I had to make sure that I wasn't blending all of that into all over my house, because then it didn't feel like I was getting a break from anything. I've heard other people say I had to, clean up a room that maybe I was using for something, maybe just a junk room. You know what I'm saying?
Create it, right?
One of those rooms, right? Where you just throw stuff in there. You don't want, you go close the door, you don't want to see it no more. Right. And so, but then if you're working in your bed or you're working, doing all your work from your bedroom or whatever, you don't feel like you're ever leaving work and you're always on. And so, but what do you say to someone, Dr. Felicia, that doesn't have a house, a 2-3 bedroom house or whatever? They're in an apartment. Come on. They're a single mom with 4 or 5 kids.
Yeah.
What can you tell that girl? What can you tell that mother? What can you tell that family?
Well, I think the first thing for these parents, I tell them, is to give themselves grace, right? Because oftentimes what I see with parents is the guilt of their decision, right? The frustration in it. And I say, hey, listen, provide grace. We are all doing the best that we can. Right? We are all doing the best that we can.
Say that again. You said give yourself grace. I love that.
Absolutely.
I think we all need that, no matter what our economic background is, no matter whether we're married, single.
Yes.
We need to give. I find that I'm having to give myself more grace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't beat yourself up about this. We are doing the best that we can. We are all in this pandemic. This is all new for us. If I live in a mansion or if I live in a 1-bedroom garden apartment, give yourself grace. So I think
all in this together. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're all in this together. So give yourself grace and allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, right? If you're frustrated, if you're sad, if you allow yourself to feel that, because oftentimes as parents, we feel like, especially African-American parents, right? Especially women, there's this Superwoman Syndrome that we have, that we are the matriarchs of our family. We don't have time to be tired, right? We don't have time to be upset. This is not a part of our blood. We got to take a lick and keep on ticking, right? So that's kind of what I've seen in women of color. But it's just like, hey, listen, give yourself grace. It's okay to be frustrated. If you got to lock yourself in the bathroom and have a picture, do it, right? That's okay to do. And whatever space that you have, make the best out of it. Right? Because even if you're in your 1-bedroom or your 2-bedroom, you got 4 or 5 kids, you can still create structure and order in that space.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
You create structure and order, and that's don't compare yourself to what everybody else is doing, right? Don't because we don't really know the truth of what they're putting on social media anyway.
You better say it. You better say that. You know that's the truth. It's the truth. So I mean, I heard you say put some kind of structure in order, no matter what that looks like for you.
What space you have, absolutely. You can still in a 1-bedroom. 5 children, you can still create structure and order. If you got to make a pallet on the floor and say, this is your space, this is your space, this is your space, this is your space, right? You know what? You can still be creative. Hey, you know what can I reuse in the house? I used the old bookshelf that I went and took in the front room. I emptied everything out, and that was their little cubbies for school, right? I just started looking in the house to figure out what I could recreate that was already in my house. Right, you know, so look, it's in the house.
Your children, Dr. Owens?
I have a 8 and a 7-year-old.
Oh wow! So you're actually living this.
What you guys know it, right? I don't know if you guys heard them like running in and out of here. I feel like my mama like, oh, wait till I get off this phone, right? They know mama done got on a call, and I get it. You know, I'm just like, hey, but
they're at home, okay? You're working.
This is their time, right? So I have to give myself grace. I have to say, hey, the World Wide Web needs to know I'm a parent. So every now and again, you might see a cat peek in. And I don't judge myself for that anymore. I used to say, oh my God, this is so awesome. I give myself grace. Hey,
yeah, you have school-aged children.
Absolutely, right?
They do not look. They don't care. The mommy is you're not Dr. Owens to them. Your mommy.
They'll often say, "Don't you have your own business? Can't you take your own self?" You know, they'll oftentimes they will say that. But again, I had to stop being so hard on myself, and I think that's where the grace comes in, because I've seen parents, they're so hard on themselves, and really with this, what I see, what parents can really do for kids, all they really want you to do is be available, right? Wow. They really just want you to be available. You don't have to have the front room set up like a classroom. All my daughter wants, she'll come in and say, hey, are you going to sit next to me in school today? It's the first couple of days. She don't care about how I done decorated the front room and I got these expensive pencils from Target. No, if I got to scrape the pencil with a knife, I don't know, our mamas used, if we didn't have a pencil sharpener.
Oh yeah, we didn't have a pencil sharpener.
So if I have to sharpen the pencils with a knife, the experience and the relationship is all your children really, really care about, right? So
you free us, Dr. Owens.
Absolutely. So make that the priority. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna give grace to myself. I'm gonna give grace to them. It's almost like we were young and the electricity was out. We didn't know we didn't know she couldn't afford to pay the bill. All we knew, it was a picnic. By candlelight, right? Candlelight dinner, and we was excited about it because mom was there. We loved on one another. So hey, make sure love is abiding in your home as much as you can, because that's what the kids need anyway.
Oh wow,
the fanciness. No,
I love that. I love that. I love what you're saying there. Make sure that love is in your home. Make sure that you're spending time with your children. It's not, if you don't have to recreate this state of the art classroom to feel like you're being impactful with these children. And some people are stressing out. They feel like they got to go spend all this money that they do not have, trying to recreate a classroom experience when really all your children want is some time. They just want to know that you care. And they really need it. I suspect that they really need it now.
Oh, more than ever.
It's changing.
Yeah, more than ever. You know, I tell parents all the time, like, listen, if you don't have, this is the time to increase family time. When you're feeling stressed, hey, you know what? Let's bake some cookies with the girls, right? Let's do something to kind of develop. So it's like doing the opposite, right? You know, when you feel stressed, hey, let's go in and bake some, let me have some family time, right? So I can get my mind off of it. Because trust me, if you feel stressed, your little ones, your college age ones, your younger, they feel the same type of stress as well, right? They feel the same type of stress as well. So Figure out, be creative, do family nights, family board games, watch a they love musicals. Hey guys, let's sit and watch a musical. Let's watch Hamilton, or let's watch Disney Plus. Let's just do something. I have to give a little bit, because it is home learning for them, and they have been in the house for 5 months. So when you're able to say yes, say yes. If it means, their bedtime is normally at 8:30 and they say, Mom, can you read another book? Read another book.
Wow. Wow.
Book, right?
Wow.
Right. Okay, Mommy will come sit here tonight with you. Right? Grace those be a little patient and kind with those little ones too, because they're in this too with us. They're right in this with us.
Wow. They are right in here with us. You are helping us, Dr. Owens. And I appreciate number one, because you're living this. You're not talking from a vacuum. You're talking from experience, your own experience in your house with your children in this digital learning, this remote learning. But you're also helping other families make these adjustments through your career, through your practice, through what you do on a daily basis. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted you to come on to help us with this, because now we are this started in March, and it's getting ready, in a minute, it'll be 7 to 8 months that we've been here. Wow. And so what I love what you said earlier, that it's time to go back to the drawing board and reevaluate our schedules, look at things, because now,
see what was working. We do that in our practice. We give our clients treatment plans. And every now and again, we'll go back and say, hey, what are some things that has worked? What are some things that has not worked? One of the things that I've been telling my parents, hey, over this pandemic, see what you've been doing, see if it has worked, see if you need to stop doing it, see if what you've been doing that you need to kind of redo, see if you need to do it again, right? So it's coming back to the drawing board, because things have changed. We cannot go on thinking things have remained the same. It's inevitable. Right. So I think it's embracing that it's almost like, I was talking to my husband the other day, and I was like, I was seeing all these people going on vacation. I was like, wait a minute, are we still in a pandemic, right? Because all these people right now. So and he said something to me. He's like, sweetheart, he's like, the fact is, this is a part of our lives. So we have to figure out, how do we live through this, right? So that's the drawing board to say, hey, we have to figure out now how to do some fun things with our families, how to do some things and remain safe as possible. We're not stuck in the house. We're safe in the house. So we still need to go out, get some exercise. Hey, take your kids, walk around the block. If they don't have bikes, hey, we used to play red light, green light, stop in the middle of the street.
You know it. We do that. I just told my daughter today, I said, your generation too sedentary. Y'all don't move with them. We went outside, and Felicia, when we went outside, you had to stay outside. Your parents, when you went outside, they told you, don't come back in. The punishment was you weren't going back out, right? Absolutely. You stay out there. Don't be running in and out of my door.
Absolutely. No, so go outside, enjoy yourself. Again, going back to those things that, that especially parents, old school parents like ourselves, hey, to the family nights, to the red light, green light stop, to the hopscotch. You mentioned they have a double dutch club, but you go outside, right? Introduce your babies to one of the things I have really been doing over this pandemic is introducing my daughters to some of the foods that we used to eat growing up. Because the other day, my daughter was like, well, I had some girls over, some for my daughter's birthday. She had some of her cousins over. So she was like, oh, I want some biscuits and jelly. And my daughter was like, well, what's jelly? I said, what's jelly? Like, when they were young, they didn't eat it. So I had taken it out of my home. So now I'm like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to make some biscuits and I'm going to put some jelly on it because I need you to know what it is, baby. So we're going back to meals that, hey, let's try to cook this. Well, my daughter, she likes to look at Pinterest and the do-it-yourself things. They're like, Mama, can we make these cupcakes? I saw on this. And I'm just like, let's try it, right? Let's try it, right? Sometimes just reprioritize things to what is now important right now. Your relationship and the time that you're spending with one another is most important. It's most important.
Yeah. So Felicia, Dr. Owens,
yes, ma'am.
Can you share where, like, if families are having issues with relationships, if husbands and wives are having issues with relationships, or if there's issues even with the children with depression or other issues that may be surfacing during this pandemic, talk to our listening audience about things that they can do professionally, what kind of help they need to seek out.
Yeah. I think, I was on one of our shows and I told someone, if you have never considered therapy or talking to someone or reaching out for extra support, now is the time to do it, right? Because some of this stuff, like, you mentioned depression, there's a difference between just depression and clinical depression, right? So you have to be able to talk to someone to know the difference in that, because yes, this is a situational type of depression. COVID-19 has come and it has created a lot of losses for us. It has taken away some loved ones for us, right? So that's going to be bad. That's going to create some depressive symptoms. So that part is absolutely normal. But clinical depression is when you can't function, right? When these symptoms, these sad symptoms, this fatigue, the crying, the hopelessness, when those symptoms have interrupted your functioning, right? When you can't even get out of bed on some days and it's consistent, right? Because it's different. Because sometimes I don't feel like getting out of bed, but I do get up. But sometimes, so it's a distinguishment between those different symptoms. And sometimes the only way to know that is to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to talk to a professional, right? Maybe I need to talk to, and there are so many, you have like Talkspace, Taraji P. Henson and the Boris Henderson Foundation. That's free space for women of color or African Americans where they can go and have free sessions with licensed mental health professionals, right? Wow. You could just do a consultation and say, hey, is this normal or is this abnormal? And if you have access to that, what I recommend people to do is, hey, get you a support system. Who is in your circle that you can pull on? Are you connected to a local church, right? Can you reach out to your pastor? Can you reach out to ministers of the church, right? Do you have family members that you can reach out to? I tell my clients, like, who can you call at 3 a.m.? But you can't call everybody at 3 a.m. You have to know who your support is. You have to you call Sister Clara. Okay, she's just the morning person, so I can call her at this time. Or if I'm in need of this, I can call them at this time. So, if you need to reach out for professional help, do that. But if you don't have access to that, because I know there's some barriers to that, the benefit of that is everything is online, but I know it's insurance. But a lot of therapists that I know, I can provide resources to you that you can kind of post. A lot of the psychologists that I know.
We're going to share your information so that way if they want to reach out to you just for at least advice on where to go.
Absolutely.
Or maybe we talk with you about appointments with your practice. The other thing is, what about children? Because, sometimes our children are going through things. And so what things can parents be looking out for their children? What kind of signs should they be looking at? And then how do we get our children to talk to someone?
Absolutely. I think that is a very, very good question. And you're right. I am living this. So this is a personal example too. But I think the number one thing we could do is pay attention to our children. Make sure we're watching our children at this time. Because the frustration and the sadness can manifest in different ways. Like for my girls, with my oldest girl, it's manifesting in sadness. She is just crying all of the time. Like even she just random outbursts of crying, right? Because she's tired of being in the house. She wants to go back to school. So we have had to have a lot of conversations about that. But also, that could be something. So if you see the crying, right? But also irritability, right? If you see all this extra conflict, you notice that your sweet little angel is kicking over furniture, right? They slamming doors, right?
Yeah.
So any type of change in behavior, no matter how big or how small, right? If you see that they're a little more isolated, right? If you see if they're a little more withdrawn, those are things to look forward to and have the conversation with them. One of the ways I tell parents this, that there are important times for kids, right? Especially younger ones. It's right when they get up in the morning, they need that attention. So parents, if you're listening, make sure you're carving out wake up time. Carving out, even if you have to get them up early in the morning, because that's the time they need to spend with you. And it's usually the after school time, right? Because they're a little stressed. they've had a hard day. But the biggest time is the right before bed. That's when they have just kind of like decompress their whole day, and they're giving everything to you. I heard parents say, well, Billy just only, he tell me everything at bedtime because he's trying to keep from going to bed. No. Don't look at that as they're trying to manipulate you from going to bed. They need you at that time. Just like we like to wind down in the evening, right? When the whole day is over, your children like to do that. So I tell parents, talk to them. Hey, tell them what's going on, right? Hey, you know, I had to tell my daughter, hey, sweetheart. She was like, well, Mommy, when can we go to school? What needs to happen? They have to plexiglass up. And I had to tell her, hey, listen, I want you to trust that Mommy is doing the best that she can to keep you safe. Mommy has a responsibility to keep you safe. And there's this virus out here. I'm very, very honest with her. There's a virus out here that can make us very, very sick. And not only can it make us sick, it can make grandmommy sick. Because my mom is older. My mom and dad are older. And they would like to visit every now and again. So I tell you, it can make not just us sick, but other people in our lives sick. So not only do we stay at home to do that, but we also stay at home because Mommy has the capacity to do that, and then it helps to keep the schools from being overcrowded, right? Yeah. So we're doing our part there, right? So the best thing you can do is pay attention for those signs, but talk to them. Don't be afraid to talk to them. And if you feel like getting out of control, then reach out. You know what? I think because I was just talking to my husband. I was like, okay, well, and I'm a whole psychologist, but I was talking to my husband. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to get a new feelings doctor for my older one because nothing that I'm saying is working, right? Because you know, because I'm the parent that's removing these things from her. Right? So nothing that I'm saying that is working. So I'm like, okay, it's probably time for me to reach out to a trusted colleague so she can have a space to say, I'm actually frustrated at Mommy because I think she's really mad at me, right? She's really mad at me because I'm the one who has the ability to say whether or not she can go to school or not. So parents, be open for that. Your kids are probably frustrated at you, right? Even though you didn't cause this virus, but you have a right to protect them. And they're not looking at it. They're looking at it like you are ruining their lives. You are making it hard for them, which is why grace for you is going to be most important and patience for them as well. So those are just some signs that you can look for. Again, like I said, the excessive crying, the withdrawal, the irritability. Any little thing that because you know your children, right? So any little thing that you see out, pay attention to that. Even, hey, I'm just checking, and then do check-ins with them every day. Hey, I'm just checking in with you today. How we doing today? You know, what can Mommy help you with today? I think that's a big conversation I have with my daughter. Is how can I help you today? Especially at the beginning of the day. What do you guys do for Mommy and Daddy today?
Wow. Okay. Wow, I tell you, you have just really, really, really blessed us. I am so grateful to have you on. I'm going to put up and say your website is Dr. Owens Speaks, Dr. Owens, Owens, speaks.com.
Yes.
You can find Dr. Owens there at her website. You can look her up on YouTube. She has a YouTube channel at Dr. Owens Speaks there on YouTube, on Facebook. She is Dr. Felicia M. Owens on IG at Dr. Owens Speaks.
Yes.
And you can find her there. She is a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of resource.
Yes.
And I am excited that we're connected not only through our church affiliation, but now she has become a member of the Harmonize Life Self-Care Network. Yay!
I'm so excited about that.
The network. And listen, ladies, you need to join the network. If you are not a part of the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network, you are missing out on a treat. You are missing out on something that will be a blessing. Women, professional women like myself, like Dr. Owens, and so many others that are part of this network. Many of them you've heard on my podcast. And some that you haven't heard yet that you will be hearing from in the days to come are part of the Harmonize Your Life conversations on Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. And so I want you to join us there, be a part of it. You heard Dr. Owens say you need a network, you need a support group.
Yes.
You need a support group, and the Harmonize Your Life Self-Care Network is a support group for women like you and I, professional women who are concerned about self-care. women who are women of color who are concerned about self-care, mothers who are concerned about self-care, whatever station of life you're in, whether you are young or whether you are over 50 like me or in your 60s or 70s. Look, as long as you are alive, you need to be healthy and you need to be connected to a healthy community. Right. And it's a safe space. Exactly. It's a safe space. So when you join the network, you connect to not only me, but you connect to so many other women, like-minded women like myself, who are concerned not only about my self-care, but I'm also concerned about your self-care and your health and wellness. Thank you again so much for coming on the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast, Dr. Owens. I'm going to let you go because I know them girls are ready to get you out that room.
Yeah, I have no idea.
For you to come out and spend some time with them or whatever.
Yes.
Talk about the school day or whatever it is you got to do. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
I enjoy myself. Yes.
I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your sisterhood. And most of all, I appreciate what you share with us on today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Listen, we'll see you again. We'll see you again real soon. Okay?
All righty.
God bless. Hi, this is Dr. Toni Alvarado. I am so delighted about bringing the Harmonize Your Life podcast to you. Would you do me a favor? If you are enjoying this podcast, would you email me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com? I want to hear from you. I want your feedback. I want to know if there are any other topics that you are interested in as it relates to wellness, self-care, nutrition, or just overall bringing harmony into your life. Email me, contact me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com.